are going to do a little bit more breathing and a little bit of gentle movement through the shoulders and the hips so that you can really experience and feel those shoulders and hips while also tuning into a nice fluid breath. And if your breath isn't feeling so fluid, that's okay. We'll work with what you're at and we'll help improve some ease. All right? All right, so what we're going to need for this practice, really simple, a block and a roller. Okay, it doesn't have to be this long. It could be a half of a roller. All right, let's get rolling. To begin sitting, you can sit cross-legged or you can sit like this. I'm in kneeling here. So choose the way that you want to sit. Now here's what's really key, is you want to make sure that you're being able to sit vertically. So one thing that does not work is if you have a block like this and you're sitting here and you come to the edge of the block to try to make yourself vertical. Because all you've done is you've taken a break in through the hip. That's not what you want to do, right? If you're going to use a block, have it so that you're sitting up on the block so that both of these guys, these sitting bones, are sitting on the block, okay? So don't use the block to compensate for something that's not working. Use the block to support what you have and so that you can gain more stability and strength, okay? So that's the first piece. We're going to start with a little breathing exercise. So gently, easily breathe, alrighty? Hands at your lower belly, maybe one hand at your lower belly and your breastbone. Totally up to you where you want to place your hands. And easily, easily breathe. So if you're just joining me now, inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. Today is going to be pretty simple. The highest we're going to come is into a lunge. And we're going to keep the focus at the largest joints primarily. So I want you to simply notice where you are at. And just feel what it's like on this Monday morning. And really do your best to try to not make your breath anything that it isn't. Just notice what it actually is. Okay, so now what I want you to do is interlace your fingers and reach them forward. Keep them this way. Reach them forward and round through your spine. And then unhook them and then bring your hands behind you and reach your arms back. So you've just done that. And then unhook them and then come to the side. And then come to the side. All right, lovely. Now we're going to add some breathing to this. So you're going to take the hands forward. Now as you're round, I want you to think about bringing breath into the back of your body and not try and increase the volume of your breath. Just to bring the breath back there. Okay. Interlace the fingers. Think about bringing the breath into the upper ribs. And do your best not to just arch your back. Like really think about arms are coming back, hands are interlacing, and then bring the breath up in here. And it might be a little bit tight and limited there. Okay, good. Now, bring the breath to the side of your ribs. I've been hearing from people who've been following me for almost as long as I've been running this, which is now over a month, about how they're moving better and they're standing taller. And bring the breath over here. And that's so awesome because to me, doing a practice is not about getting a stretch. That's not what this whole thing's about. It's about fundamentally changing and improving your function. Okay, we're going to do this one more time. So coming forward, really round. Think about rounding through that back and breathe into the back of the ribs. Good. And then the other way. And so it also has to do with increasing the awareness of how you move. So these are just exercises. Right? It's paying attention because your tissue can change. Okay. And other side. Now you're going to bring one arm up alongside your ear and then bend the elbow. Take the other arm up and bring that arm into, you're bringing this arm into a bit of extension if it's available to you. So it's not just doing this, right? So it's thinking about the arm bone moving in that shoulder socket. And then unraveling. Okay, so then the arm comes up. This is the articulating joint. Then the elbow. So this top arm isn't just about briefing on the arm, right? It's not so much about a stretch. You might feel a stretch, but it's not about a stretch. Okay, good. Okay, let's bring this arm across you now like this. And take the arm across. Now watch what happens here. It's not this. It's just the arm coming straight across. And then once we're here, we're going to move through the shoulder joint. So that we're going to move into articulation through rotation through this range. Good. All right, lovely. Other side. Bringing this arm. Now watch your breathing as you go, right? Notice at any point as you take your limbs through range, if your breathing starts to become limited. Right? Because if you're just pushing into range in order to push through range, that's not going to necessarily help you, right? We know that there's not a correlation between improving range and pain reduction. And there's not even a correlation between improving range and function, right? Because you can just move like crap to get into some bigger range. Okay, let's come into a little bit of a twist. So here are the lower ribs. Here's the pelvis. So the ribs are going to go this way. And it's the obliques that are the engine of that rotation. Okay, good. And then come back here and this way. All right, lovely. And then come back to start. Okay, we're going to come off of this now, and we're going to take the roller, and we're going to come into a child's pose. So our bum's going to come down towards our heels anyway. And then bring that arms forward, like so. Okay, now imagine that whatever your hands are doing, bringing them forward, you're now going to take them over towards, so that's 12 o'clock. Now you're bringing it over toward 1 or 2 o'clock. There's a side bend happening in your body. Good. And then let's come to the other side. That's it. Now, if you want to dig into any of these ideas that I'm talking around about how, and then come back up, about how we let that roller come away, we're coming to a lunge now, is about how range of motion and pain are not correlated, or pain reduction rather are not correlated. If you really want to dig into how to reduce pain, just changing that light, that shadow is a lot worse than I thought it was going to be. 1 sec. There we go. The shadow's still there a bit. It's all right. Okay, I'm learning all about shadows these days and these videos. It's quite funny. Anyway, I keep interrupting myself. If we're going to go to side bend now, if you want to learn more about how to actually reduce pain, you want to dig into that more, then send me a direct message about Susie's resource library. Super inexpensive, $25 a month. Super inexpensive. And you get 3 calls with me a month. Plus there's over 200 hours of video. There's just a ton on there. And more is being added every month. All right, so it's super, super reasonable. And you'll learn a ton for yourself. It's designed mostly for teachers, but we got lots of students in there. But you can send me a direct message and I'll send you a link. I can even put a link into the comment section of this so you can see. Okay, now we're going to come back into here, this lunge. Now we're going to take us into a twist. So here comes your fingers at your chin, and then take the twist. Okay? And then untwist. All right, and let's do the other side. So coming on up. And bring yourself into the twist, or the lunge. And then let's take the twist. Now what's interesting here, and I caught myself doing it, which is why I'm going to mention it to you guys. So here, what can sometimes happen is you can see, I'm exaggerating it, but you can see that pelvis coming around. Now I want you to focus on here. So the pelvis stays stable and still, not anchored and not gripped, but then the rib cage moves. Now I know lots of teachers out there talk about moving the pelvis. I'm not one of them. I've got my reasons for it. I find that lots of people improve their SI joint and back pain and knee pain and shoulder issues and neck issues really, really well when they learn the coordination between these two. Now notice that I didn't say when they don't move their pelvis. I said when they learn the coordination between these two. So I don't just not move something or move something. Like there's an underlying coordinating and motor control thing that I want to help improve. Okay, good. All right, now we're going to take the block and we're going to bring the block between the heels. So the knees are just underneath the pelvis, and we're going to take the block right between the heels there. So it looks like that. Okay. So we're here, and I'm pushing these guys into my heels into the block. Now, the one area I don't want you to be feeling this is your hamstring, because if that's happening, then you're likely oscillating forward and back. I want you to think more about a rotational motion that's being generated from your heels, and you'll likely feel it, or where you ultimately want to feel it is in your bum. Now, you might not feel it there. Don't worry. Don't all of a sudden do this. You see how I'm just squeezing my bum? You can see that in the light there. That's not what we're doing. The bum is going to engage as a result of those feet, press it into the block. Now, initially this might be very challenging for you. That's okay. Challenge is okay. It's a simple, subtle movement. Good. All right, let that go. And we're going to come back to lunge. Let's just see if there's anything different with our lunge. So now here, we're going to come here into lunge. And we're going to come forward. So if I do this from the side, it's not this motion. It's the knee, the hip, and the knee are the articulating joints as you come forward. Good. And then you can start to add a side bend. Yeah. Easy, easy peasy side bend. Again, that pelvis hasn't moved way over to the side in order to do the work. And then notice the breathing in through this area as you're going to the side. And maybe there isn't any. Yeah? All right, let that come back. Sometimes I find when we're practicing, it can be easy to say, ooh, look, I don't have any breath, so I better add some. I should be breathing. What becomes more interesting is being curious about why there isn't any. So what's tight? What's limited? What's created that? Yeah, is it the general emotion that's kind of in the air? The fear, the concern, the worry? Is that just something even before this stuff has happened? This coronavirus stuff happened? Was that your typical state? And so really nothing has changed. It's just you're now noticing it. That's one of the things I found so interesting about the coronavirus issues that we're having is that what I've noticed for myself is a lot of my problems aren't new. I'm just more aware of them. So this has just unveiled what was already not really working anyway. I don't necessarily like it that much, being aware of it, but at least I can now start to solve it. This might not be the same for you, but it's certainly what I've noticed for myself. All right, lovely. Okay, now we're going to come back, and we're going to have on hands and knees, like so. And let's take a cat and a cow. So we're going to go cow first, and then we're going to bring that pelvis under, roll through the spine, good, and then other way. So I like to do this movement as sequentially as I can, as opposed to just dropping and lowering, so that I can pay really close attention to what goes on between my pelvis and my ribs. And really generating the movement from hips and shoulders as well as the spine. And then slowly thinking about that pelvis coming around the leg bones and then coming into the spine, and not just dumping through the belly. Moving that around. Okay, now let's add in some breathing. So then as you're coming into cow, into this extension, that's when your inhale comes in. And then as you come the opposite way, that's when your exhale comes out. Yeah? Inhale coming in. And then exhale, and you just move on your own rhythm. Lovely, good, and then around again. Easy, 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 easy movement. Okay, and then come back to tabletop. we're going to keep the pelvis where it is. We're now going to move the arms through this. The articulating joint is the shoulder. Yeah, so the arms have come forward, and now I'm going to move myself down toward the floor. But you see how my hips are staying, for the most part, in the same position. They're moving back a little bit, but I'm moving into hip flexion as well as moving through my shoulders as they come forward. But I'm not dropping my ribs, nor am I holding my ribs in really, really tight. I'm just paying close attention. Now, you don't have to follow exactly what I'm doing, of course. It's your movement. But just pay attention. It's more about paying attention to how you're doing the movement and what's actually moving and what's in your awareness. And just easily breathe. Okay? And then what I'd like you to do is, if you look at your left hand, take the left hand underneath that right elbow. So you've just bent your left elbow. And you can drop your head towards your forearm. Great. And then come back up. And then come down. When we gain the awareness through our shoulder girdle and how that connects with the ribs and the pelvis, we have a really powerful relationship. I was answering a question of someone on Instagram the other day about a cue for the shoulder blades and headstand. And I gave her a response that she probably wasn't expecting, which was, you should really play around with pincha first and forearm stand first before you even think about doing headstand if you're asking me a question about your shoulder girdle. Because she was all concerned about getting into her neck, right? And if you don't have the structural integrity through your shoulder, and you don't have the awareness through there, then you're just going to fall into your neck with headstand. So if you can gain that integrity through your shoulder girdle, so much can change. Okay, so now let's come back to these breath stretches again. And let's come forward and see and feel what that feels like, what's going on there. Good. And then bring the fingers back and arms back. And then come over to the side. Now this is quite a gentle practice that I've done with you guys today. And you might find that you need to do a little bit more, like you need to get a little bit more active, and this might just be getting you rolling. Good, and then come on up. We're going to come down to the floor, so go and do that, please, if you need to. I do a combination of practices that are both a little bit more strengthening and others that are just a more awareness. Okay, so now we're going to lift up the hips. We're going to take the roller and place it underneath the bum. But as I said earlier, and where this roller is you should be able to be in a place where you don't feel like the roller is going to slip out this way or slip back this way. But as I said earlier, was when I do practices, whether it's for myself or for my students, it's not about getting a stretch. The stretch might happen as a result of it. Just notice your breath. But really the idea is to improve coordination patterns, because I fundamentally believe that strength is easy. What's challenging is what are the coordinating patterns that lie underneath that. So if you aren't moving well and you try to add strength, you're going to be adding strength on top of an unstable, uncoordinated, lack of control, just a really poor foundation. Yeah? So if you work at improving the foundation, the strength just naturally happens. Just quite naturally. And it's easy to add load. It's easy to add bands and weights and all sorts of stuff. It becomes super straightforward. But lots of people either don't know that or try to rush thinking that strength is where it's at. And it's not true. Because you can hurt yourself like anything. Strength's awesome. But I think we've almost, in some ways, in the yoga world, gone a little too far of like, oh, we focus so much on stretching and releasing, and now we need to focus on strengthening, and actually neither is right. Right? They both are, but they both aren't. That's why this awareness piece is so important. Which, funnily enough, is kind of what yoga is. Is this? It's improving the awareness, which helps improve your coordinating patterns. Okay, lovely. Now let's take that roller away. And find your breath. We'll do 2 more movements before we settle in for Shavasana. You're going to take your legs into butterfly. So you'll notice with my feet have not slid towards each other. They're just, the feet are coming along for the ride. So the articulating joint is right here, the leg bone in the hip socket. And if you want to really play around with your awareness and your overall patterning, is notice the front of your hip here. Yes, your legs are in flexion, right? They came into this position. This is a hip flexion, but it's not active. All you're actively doing right now is bringing your legs into rotation. So really, the hip flexors don't need to be firing at all as we go into this motion. And now I'm going to have you slow it down if you're up for that. So now slow down slow down the pace and just notice how many breaths it takes you to bring your legs wide. And then slow it down even more as you bring your legs back together. Slow on the way out. Feeling the inhale and the exhale. And then slower on the way back in. Let's do one more. So whatever one you're currently on, we'll finish up with that one. Great. And then you'll bring one leg to your belly and the other leg. And then circle those legs around. I call these egg beaters. One leg going one way, the other leg coming the other way. And as the legs move away, that's your inhale. As the legs move toward, that's your exhale. Inhale away. Exhale. And you move on your own rhythm. Good. And then other way.
All right, lovely. Okay, rest your feet down and easy, easy breath. So you can stay on your back where you are. I'm going to roll over and come closer to the screen. Now, you might be someone, as I mentioned earlier, who needs to do a little bit more activity. So if you want to move on, then go for it. Just take a few breaths before you transfer to doing that. And if you're lying on your back, and this has been a great practice for where you're at, just settle into your breathing and just notice what it now feels like. Feeling the inhale come in and the exhale go out. Yeah? Feel the inhale come in and the exhale come out. It's kind of like being a boat on water, and the inhale is coming in like the waves taking you up, and the exhale goes out like the waves taking you down. Now, what's particularly awesome about this analogy is when you feel yourself losing contact with your breath or the movement of the boat taking you up and the boat taking you down, just return back to it. Or whatever other image works for you. Just return to your breath, because remember, particularly at a time like now, we need to be able to be present, right? Like coming back to the breath over and over and over and over again. Yeah? It's so easy to get distracted into what the possible future is or what the past was. So come back to your breath. Inhaling in and exhaling out. And I give you a gentle challenge today, and that's to notice your breath, to be aware and notice when you start spinning in your thought, either in the future or the past, and come back to your breath. Come back to your breath. All right? And then we will see you tomorrow. Take care. I'm online here every morning. Starting time anywhere between 4:45 Mountain and about 5 is when I start. Okay? See you tomorrow.